Who are some criminals who just love to do crime? What would you do if you discovered your wife pouring bleach in your coffee every day? And what about this lady who's not sorry at all for her criminal career dating back to 1961? What about this Chinese money laundering gang who was caught laundering millions of pounds? Then there's this kingpin who probably wouldn't have gotten caught if it weren't for his girlfriend and her social media posting ways. Let's get right to it, starting with number 7, awful coffee. Melody Felicano Johnson, a 39-year-old woman from Arizona, was arrested after being accused of putting bleach in her husband, Roby Johnson's coffee. But somehow, despite Roby's clear video evidence, Melody didn't end up going to prison for the attempt on his life. Roby Johnson, an active member of the U.S. Air Force, became suspicious when his coffee began to taste off while he was stationed in Germany with his wife. The couple were in the middle of a divorce but still lived together, so obviously they had a strained relationship. Because of that, Roby became suspicious that Melody might be trying to poison him, possibly in an attempt to collect his life insurance benefits. So, Roby set up hidden cameras in their home after testing the water from the coffee marker with pool chemical strips revealing high chlorine levels. The footage captured Melody pouring bleach into a container in the laundry room and then transferring it into the coffee machine. Despite Roby's suspicions, he continued pretending to drink the coffee while gathering evidence. When the couple returned to the U.S., Roby installed higher quality cameras, which caught Melody in the act again. He reported the incident to the Tucson police, but initial video evidence was deemed inconclusive. However, after more footage was collected, Melody was arrested. Authorities then executed a search warrant and found that the coffee machine had a strong bleach smell, pretty much sealing the deal. Though initially facing charges of her attempted first-degree plot, Melody later pleaded guilty to 2 counts related to adding the toxic substances to her husband's coffee. At the time of her sentencing, she was facing up to 4 years in prison. What ended up surprising everyone was, despite the severity of the situation, Roby requested leniency, explaining that he didn't want Melody to serve prison time. So ultimately, she only received 3 years of probation, including mandatory mental health treatment. She had already spent nearly a year in custody because she couldn't post her $250,000 bond, which Roby must have thought was good enough. It makes you wonder, though, why should you use something that has such a strong, recognizable smell if you're trying to covertly slip it into someone's drink, right? Not that we're criminal masterminds or anything, but why did she even continue using bleach if it didn't do the job the first time? At the end of the day, though, we're just glad that Melody wasn't very good at what she was doing. Number 6, career thief granny. Doris Payne, an infamous jewel thief, spent decades swiping high-end jewelry from stores around the world. At a ripe old age of 86 years old, she was once again caught for attempting to steal a $2,000 necklace from a store in an Atlanta suburb. This incident wasn't her first run-in with the law, as she had been arrested numerous times for similar crimes, making headlines each time. Known for her brazenness and cunning, Payne had become somewhat of a legend in the world of crime. Her story started back in the 1950s, but her first theft dated even further back to when she was just 12 years old. Payne stole a wristwatch, igniting a lifetime of jewel heists that took her from local shops to high-end boutiques in places like Monaco. Over the years, she developed a strategy that allowed her to pull off these crimes with ease. She didn't rely on brute force or complex heists, but rather on her ability to blend in. Payne used a combination of charm, elegance, and confidence to manipulate her targets. She would walk into a jewelry store dressed in designer clothing, portraying herself as a wealthy and discerning customer. Once inside, Payne would take her time, asking to see various expensive pieces and engaging with the staff to distract them. Her ability to build rapport with salespeople was essential to her method. She often made them believe she was genuinely interested in purchasing something, which allowed her to get close to the items without raising suspicion. As the staff's attention shifted, Payne would seize the opportunity to slip a piece of jewelry into her pocket or bag. Payne also knew how to create confusion and subtly take control of the situation. She once said that the store employees dictated what happened, not her. She merely took advantage of the situation they allowed. Her calm demeanor and lack of haste meant that by the time anyone realized something was missing, she was already long gone. Despite being caught multiple times, Payne rarely expressed regret for her actions. She saw herself as someone taking what she felt the world owed her, especially after a shopkeeper once treated her poorly in her youth. With each theft, she lived a life of luxury, buying expensive clothes, traveling the world, and enjoying fine dining. Payne's most significant heist occurred in Monaco, where she swiped a massive diamond ring and later sold it for over $500,000. Even in her later years, Payne couldn't resist the thrill of the heist. After serving time for several incidents, she found herself arrested yet again, this time for shoplifting at a Walmart, which is a pretty far fall from Monaco. Don't forget grandmas are criminals too. Just like this grandma who decided to steal TVs with her grandson. We'll cover this story in depth in a later video. 5. The town budget. Ursula Stone, a former village clerk who managed records, finances, and administrative tasks for a small municipality in upstate New York, was caught embezzling over $1 million in village funds, a sum nearly equal to the town's entire annual budget. Yes, apparently, there's still villages in this day and age, and this particular village had a low-down, dirty thief. State officials uncovered that Stone, over the course of her employment, manipulated the village's finances without any oversight. She handled payroll, leave records, and health insurance buyouts, all without the necessary approval from higher officials. By taking advantage of this unchecked power, she gave herself unauthorized raises, cashed out vacation time she wasn't entitled to, and even stole checks intended for the local school district and the village itself. Stone's scheme finally unraveled after 20 years when the New York State Comptroller's Office decided to conduct an audit back in 2022, revealing her mismanagement and theft. Despite her resignation in 2023, Stone tried to sneak one last payout, a check for over $26,000. But authorities caught it before it could be cashed. Prosecutors alleged that Stone stole over $1 million, though she admitted to only taking around $100,000. Ultimately, Stone was handed 3 to 9 years in prison for embezzling over $1.1 million from village funds over nearly 2 decades. She forfeited her pension and was ordered to pay full restitution. This case was the first time a public official in New York has been forced to forfeit their pension under anti-corruption laws. If that's interesting to anyone. And what was she even thinking trying to get that last check on her way out the door like she wasn't being watched? It's like she was slick for 20 years and then she gets caught and her brain just turns off? We can just picture some judge slapping the check out of her hand and shouting, "What's wrong with you? Put that back." Number 4. The Hunt For Refunds. Narinder Kaur, a 54-year-old from the UK, was sentenced to 10 years for defrauding major UK retailers. Over 4 years, Kaur managed to con popular retail chains such as Debenhams, John Lewis, and Boots, which are basically UK versions of Macy's, Bloomingdale's, and CVS, out of nearly $625,000 by tricking them into giving her refunds for items she had stolen. Kaur's fraudulent activities were described as a full-time operation, working 6 days a week, 8 to 9 hours each day. She would enter stores, take items off the shelves, and then return them for refunds, claiming she had lost the receipt. Kaur would often make small legitimate purchases to back up her claims, securing refunds for both the stolen and purchased goods. Her largest single scam was at Boots, the CVS equivalent, where she received around $75,000 in refunds despite only spending about $6,500 during that period. Kaur replicated this tactic across several other well-known retailers, racking up thousands in refunds, including $55,000 from Debenhams and $42,000 from John Lewis. Not only did Kaur scam retailers, but she also defrauded law firms by using stolen credit cards to funnel compensation payments into her own accounts. When Kaur was finally arrested, She produced fake documents to manipulate the court and attempted to avoid her speeding fines to ease her bail conditions. Despite her absence in court during sentencing, she apparently just didn't want to be there for obvious reasons. Kaur's crimes were labeled as a tsunami of dishonesty by the judge, who handed her 10 years. Kaur's relentless scams left her with around $200,000 in cash hidden around her home, along with a collection of stolen goods, making her one of the most persistent fraudsters the authorities had ever encountered. It's crazy that she legit spent 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, shoplifting and returning stuff, right? Like, at what point is that no longer a grift and just a job that you can get arrested? Number 3. Phantom payments. Gloria Stern, a Los Angeles bakery owner known for her unique edible flour creations, was caught in a shocking scam that left her both financially and emotionally shaken. Her bakery, Eat Your Flowers, usually focuses on cookies and cakes. So when she received an online order for 1,000 cupcakes, she found it a bit unusual. But with the potential for a good payday, she took the order and got to work. Things seemed to be going smoothly when the customer sent a check for just over $7,500 by priority mail. Gloria even visited her bank for advice since it was such a large order, and once the funds cleared, she felt reassured. Confident everything was legitimate, she bought the necessary ingredients and got to baking. Then, the twist came. The customer reached out and requested to cut the order in half, asking for a refund on the difference. Gloria refused, explaining they had already bought everything and began the process. The bank even assured her that her invoice and communication would protect her. But what happened next left everyone stunned. The very next day, the funds disappeared from her account, and the check had been flagged as counterfeit. It turned out that scammers had stolen another company's checkbook and had written a bunch of fraudulent checks to multiple businesses like hers. When Gloria reached out to the company listed on the check, she learned she wasn't alone. She was the 15th person that day to call about the same scam. Many of the victims were small businesses like bakeries and landscaping companies. Everyone had rushed to buy supplies only to be asked for a refund after the counterfeit checks cleared. Though Gloria managed to sell some of the cupcakes, she still faced a hefty financial loss. The experience left her disillusioned, but she hopes her story will warn others about the risks small businesses face with scams like this. This leaves us with a question though. Should the bank be the one to take the financial hit on this? It seems that Gloria did everything a reasonable person would be expected to do in such a situation. She was assured by the bank that the large check was valid after the funds cleared. She was then further reassured by the bank that everything was okie dokie when she was asked for a refund in what's a somewhat common scam. But then again, banks often warn customers that even if funds are made available, it doesn't guarantee the check is valid, and they may still be reversed if the check turns out to be fraudulent. So who takes the hit here? Let us know in the comments below. Number 2. 55 million pounds. A group of criminals involved in a massive money laundering scheme has been sentenced to nearly 25 years in prison collectively. At the center of it all was 29-year-old Keiji Wang from Manchester, who ran the operation under the online alias There Is a Big Sun in the Sky. Wang and his team moved over 55 million pounds through secret channels between February of 2020 and June of 2023 using a Chinese messaging app to coordinate their illegal activities. But what the police uncovered during their investigation was far more shocking. Wang was initially caught after police began investigating suspicious underground banking activity. His involvement was revealed following a series of raids in late 2022 where large sums of cash were found at the homes of his associates. During these raids, authorities uncovered mobile phones and communication records, revealing that Wang, operating the somewhat ironic alias There Is a Big Sun in the Sky, was the mastermind behind the operation. This was part of a 3-year investigation that exposed an international money laundering network. Police raids revealed large amounts of cash hidden in the homes of Wang's associates, along with cash counting machines and mobile devices filled with evidence of their illegal activities. An interesting aspect of the operation was its connection to Chinese university students. Wang's group helped students exchange British pounds to bypass currency restrictions in China. The students were limited in how much money they could take out of the country each year, so the gang provided a way to move cash illegally without drawing attention. Wang's accomplices, including a couple of guys named Zhao Yu Shu and Yin Ying Wang, were found with over 100,000 pounds hidden in a wardrobe. The group handled significant sums of cash, sometimes as much as 250,000 pounds in a single transaction. To maintain secrecy, they used a method where they exchanged photos of 5-pound notes with specific serial numbers to confirm the money transfer, ensuring that neither party knew the identity of the other. In total, officers seized nearly 500,000 pounds in assets, including high-end items and electronic devices used to track their illegal profits. Further searches at other properties uncovered even more cash, money counting machines, and ledgers that detailed every transaction the gang had processed over the years. By the end of the investigation, 7 people, including Wang, Shu, and Huang, were handed significant prison sentences. Wang received the longest sentence of 12 years, and their system of exchanging photos of 5-pound notes to verify transactions? Sure, it probably slowed things down, but seriously, imagine laundering millions, one fiver at a time. All that effort, and it still wasn't enough to keep them from getting caught. Number 1. Cartel wives and social media. Ronald Roland, a notorious figure in Brazil, was arrested after a 2-year search for his role in a large-scale criminal network. Authorities had been chasing this slippery little devil for years, but what ultimately sealed his fate was beyond absurd. Roland became notorious due to his involvement in smuggling operations and money laundering schemes. Over the years, he built strong connections with cartels, smuggling illegal substances between Central and South America, and laundering an estimated $900 million through various businesses. His love for luxury, from expensive cars to high-end vacations, made him stand out. The guy was living like a real-life Tony Montana, and it showed. Authorities had been investigating him for years, but despite their efforts, they could never really pin down his location. He was always one step ahead. Roland was finally caught at his luxury condo with his wife Andresa de Lima and their daughter. De Lima, who owned a bikini shop, regularly shared photos of their lavish vacations to places like Dubai and France, flaunting their life about private jets. One of her posts gave away their exact location, leading police right to them after a 2-year manhunt. Roland was arrested, along with 7 others, in a major operation spanning 7 states. Authorities seized millions in cash, jewelry, 34 luxury cars, a boat, and even a private jet. Investigators confirmed that Roland laundered nearly $900 million over the past 5 years through a network of businesses, including his wife's bikini shop. Roland's extravagant purchases had drawn attention long before his capture. One day, he'd been seen in a $90,000 car, and the next week, he'd have another worth double that. Authorities had been monitoring him since 2012, following his connections to major smuggling rings in Central and South America. The ridiculous thing about the arrest was this wasn't the first time social media played a part in his getting busted. Apparently, Roland's ex-wife accidentally revealed their location on Instagram as well, leading to his arrest back in 2019. He was released in 2020 under supervision, but it didn't take long for him to return to his old ways. Seriously, hasn't this guy ever watched The Godfather? Rule number 1 of running a criminal enterprise: no photos, especially not on social media with location tags. It's already ridiculous that this happened once, let alone twice. It's almost like, well, whose fault is it he got caught? Maybe it's time to pick smarter partners, or at least learn how to turn off location services on the phones. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what superpower you'd rather have: the ability to convince one person per day telepathically to give you what they have on them in cash, or the ability to instantly know the exact resale value of any item you buy.